Hey guys, it's Xenofang here, and we're back with another Division video talking about the PTS once again, but today we're going to be talking about Skirmish and my personal thoughts on Skirmish. Well, recently I've been playing Skirmish quite consistently during the PTS, testing out loads of builds and stuff like that, but for right now, since the reign of the Predator's Mark is going on, it's really not that easy to go and test out different builds, but other than that, I really particularly want to talk about Skirmish in general, not an aspect of builds versus builds or player versus player engagement. It's just based around the game mode itself and some of the mechanics that are within the game mode itself as well. First thing I want to talk about is the pretty much loading, the way the game loads now. Now, I don't know if it's just the PTS or it is something that they're planning on doing for a new matchmaking system within 1.8, but the matchmaking they have right now is absolutely expressed in one word: bad. I do not like it at all. I don't know if they are planning on changing it or if this is something just particularly added within the PTS just to make it so it's easier to find lobbies, but all I gotta say is if it is to find lobbies, they've just done the complete opposite. Within the division right now, within 1.7, I really have no problems with trying to find lobbies within Last Stand at all, and right now with the adjustments to 1.8 and what is in the PTS right now, it's incredibly hard to find consistent lobbies because the way it's set up right now is it does a basic sweep of matching, and then once it's got a couple or maybe nobody in all, they'll instantly start to match and throw you in. And then you have to rely on people hopefully joining your lobby, otherwise you're sitting there with some situations where it's just you versus 4 people, you versus nobody, you and 4 other people versus 1 guy, or it's just a mixture of combinations. And right now, with the matchmaking it is set up right now, it doesn't actually calculate you with a full squad and then purge you up with another squad. It just throws you into a game, and if there's an extra person, then that's your opponent. So I particularly don't like this. I hope that they go back to the way that that 1.7 is, where you go into a lobby and then it'll load up everybody in the match, and then once you've got a full lobby of 4v4, 8v8, then it starts the match. I hope that they prefer to go with that setup instead of the way it is right now, where it's like once you've loaded into the freaking thing, it just instantly throws you in. There you go. You just run around looking at the scenery for a good 5 or 6 minutes, or you fight one guy for a good couple bit, or you're just sitting there running around hoping that you don't get murdered by the 4 players that you're fighting against. So I'm gonna have a couple clips in the background that you guys are probably watching during this and stuff like that. Is some gameplay of Skirmish itself, as well as some things where we're just sitting there jumping into lobbies that are completely empty and stuff. It's so consistent that it doesn't find lobbyists, but there is one good thing I have to say. Once you find a nice 4v4, the action that Skirmish provides is very awesome. It's very in your face, constantly fighting PvP. Now, there is some issues I really don't like. For instance, whenever you get to the point in time where you're sitting there in the enemy spawn and they just consistently get into a loop cycle of them dying, respawning on top of each other, dying and respawning on top of each other, it's constant PvP, yes, but the problem is that the team that you're fighting really doesn't have any opportunities to regroup or fight. It's just consistently one versus the rest of the people, and I think that they expressed that they don't want this to be an issue, so it is an issue, but so I kind of wanted to just throw it out there and say that is kind of an issue. And the other thing is that regrouping with my team is sometimes an issue whenever you have, maybe for instance, one of your guys on your team goes down during the 4v4 engagement. You have 4 guys versus another 4 guys, and you're sitting there fighting each other, and maybe one of your guys gets picked off, and then they spawn across the map like 15 feet behind you, or like 100 feet behind you, and it's just like they're so far away that your squad up front is just sitting there at a 4v3 engagement the whole time, which isn't really technically an issue. It's just annoying whenever it happens to you and you die, and then you have to try to run all the way to the opposite side of the map to try to re-engage with your teammates. That's a little bit particularly annoying, but in general, for the most part, the spawning system isn't really that bad. It's very predictable, though. It's very, very easy to sit there and get your enemy team, once you've got a half-decent team, into a spawn trap, like how you would do in Eller. Like, for instance, Call of Duty, you would sit there and maybe spawn trap these teammates over and over and over again. It's super easy to do in Skirmish, which is kind of a negative as well as a positive. I very much enjoy it, but I mean, for the other side of the spectrum, I feel like the other guys don't really have that much of an advantage and have no opportunity to do anything about it. So I'm not so sure if they maybe should change up the spawning sequence within Skirmish itself, because right now it's just too I guess it's too consistent in the sense it's really easy to predict where the people are going to spawn. Once you've wiped one side of the spectrum, you just run all the way to the other side and spawn drop them again, and you just flip back and forth, and sometimes you get them into that loop where they're sitting there spawning in the same spot, and it's just 1 versus 4 the whole entire time until the match is over, and you'll have games where it's 20-0. Next thing I would like to express my opinions on is the time limit for the matches. Honestly, 20 kills is very limited. It feels very, very quick, which I understand that they want these matches to be quick and fast, but I feel it's a little bit too quick. I think that the kill amount could probably go up a little more, maybe to around 40 to maybe 50 kills per match, and maybe extend the time a bit more. As addition to that, I also hope that they add additional maps within the playlist itself. Only 3 maps is very stale, and it'll eventually get to the point where it's very repetitive, and it won't be very enjoyable to play the same maps over and over again. There's plenty of areas within the new West Side Pier that they could particularly choose. For instance, I'm going to put up my favorite area that I would really hope they sit there and consider to add. I mean, it's this disco room. It's really cool. I don't really see any issues with this being a place that, what is it called, players can sit there and fight and stuff like that. As addition to them, maybe they can take some of the areas within the Last Stand playlist, some of the Dark Zone areas, and then add those within the playlist as well. There's the Armory up in the top DZ9 far right corner that could be very good for Skirmish, especially because it's not a very large area. It's very small, so that would be kind of cool to see. And as addition to that, I also think it'd be kind of awesome if maybe they take some of the Skirmish maps that we have right now and add them into Last Stand and make them a smaller variation of some of the larger maps, and then maybe we can have a little bit of a close quarters type PvP within Last Stand itself, with the capture points and stuff. I could see them doing a lot of things with both of the two game modes, but in particular, if I want to try to focus on Skirmish as it is, they should seriously think about adding extra maps. 3 maps within the playlist is very limited. It doesn't really seem that like awesome, especially because like Last Stand still has a sort of the same problem. There's only like 5 maps within the Last Stand, and it just gets to the point where it's really repetitive, even though it's a larger scale spectrum. But I feel like since Skirmish has smaller maps, it's going to get to the point where you're just kind of playing the same map over and over and over again. I really don't want to have that aspect. I mean, it's either the what is called the aircraft carrier playing in front of that, or the crate yard type place, or the underground area, which I really like the underground area, but I really hope that they consider on using something like the disco room, which we're going to have put the clip up again. It's really awesome. They really should go with it. Other than that, really, like, for the most part, the matchmaking is just kind of the main issue. The time to play is kind of low. The spawning is a little bit funky, especially whenever you're the one trying to spawn trap or you're getting spawn trapped. It can be really annoying. It's really easy to consistently spawn trap players. Also, I think I noticed that there's some like really long time periods of respawn delays. There's plenty of times where I'm just sitting on top of my players and they can't really figure out where to respawn me until like 15 additional seconds after the time. Then it'll give me an additional time period for me to wait, and then I'll respawn, which is a little bit annoying, but I can understand why they did that. It's so they can regroup with everybody. But I mean, if my teammates are sitting there in a fight already, just get me back into the fight. That would be awesome. On that, I'm probably going to post this video up in the forums in general, just so they can see my opinion, because I honestly think that this is something that I think that could be beneficial for them, but also for you guys, because, you know, it's just my personal thoughts. My last video had to do with named weapons, exotics, and stuff like that. I was really just kind of expressing the percentages and stuff. I haven't actually posted up on the forums, but I think I'm going to go ahead and do something to do with the exotic weapons later on and talk about them on the forums itself, to do with 1.8, because in particular, well, if any of you guys out there that are massive employees or whatever, I don't think that the certain weapon categories for certain exotics got really well treated in this update. I hope that you guys consider on buffing more things. On that, guys, if you're just regular viewers and stuff like that or are interested in my channel, hopefully you guys enjoyed this video. Thanks for watching. Bye, guys.